the first true melee carry introduced into Paragon has been Serath. Now, while some people argue that when Greystone was released, he was also a carry, Serath, she really is a melee carry due to her scaling and her kit and everything like that. Here in this build, we are taking a look at how do we make her a presence in a team fight, but also do some pretty crazy damage. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Paragon Guide, a hero building guide. I am Sylphin. We start off by looking at her numbers to try to gain a little sense into what exactly do the numbers say behind her, and then we can use that to inform ourselves when it comes to building a deck for her that's a little bit, suited to the underlying fundamentals of the hero. So her basic attack is, well, very strong. She is a basic attack carry. That is her thing, and we can see it here very nicely. 1.0 power scaling, starting with 55, not the highest basic attack, but it does increase a fair amount. 1.6 per increase is pretty good. So she's a little bit more of a late game carry, not a hyper carry, but more late game than anything else. Attack speed is nice and quick at 1.2 seconds as well, ending up at 77.4 damage. So her basic attack is pretty damn good, but she doesn't gain attack speed. Unfortunately, she does not gain attack speed, so she's just like Twin Blast in that attack speed is really nice for her, as it is something that really, well, she doesn't get naturally. So any little bit of attack speed you get on her is really powerful, as you aren't fighting diminishing returns as much. If we take a look at the rest of her abilities, her right click is her Chastise, her slow ability, and as you can see, not very much damage at all. 180 with 0.5 power scaling, 70 mana cost, and 10 seconds cooldown. You basically use it for that slow. It does do a little bit of damage. You will have a fair amount of power, about 100 power or so, depending on your build. So that should be what is that? 230 damage. It's okay, but really you just use it with your ultimate, which we'll get into later. Q is her Heaven's Fury that you basically use for the invulnerability frame. We'll talk more about that. As you can see, it doesn't really have power scaling because it deals your 100% of your basic damage. It deals your base your LMB, your basic attack, on all heroes in its area of effect. So it's basically free basic attacks on heroes that are in the area, and just emphasizing her basic attack more. So it crits, it gains lifesteal. It's absolutely amazing. And as you can see, the cooldown goes down really quick when you upgrade it. So usually this is the one you want to upgrade the most. E is her Ascend. It's typically your gap closer or your escape tool. Again, not much damage, but it is an AoE ability that if you can manage to land it on a couple people with your ultimate, it's pretty damn strong as well. R is her Heresy. It is her ultimate. Again, 0.1 power scaling. You don't really use it. Really, what you use it for is just the fact that it's an ability that hits people. It weakens them, reduces their damage by 25%, and additional damage on basics burn them for 25 damage with 0.25 power scaling. So basically what you want to do is with your ultimate, you hit them. Again, not for the damage, but more for the fact that it's an ability. Your next basic attacks hit them. It deals damage, extra damage, and then you use another ability, which applies the burn, dealing extra damage. So you kind of want to spread out your abilities. Basically, you just use it to empower your basic attacks. Your Q, basically, it doesn't empower your basic attack, but it gives you more basic attacks. Your ultimate weakens them, yes, but it empowers your basic attacks. Essentially, that's what it does. So you can see that you're trying to slow them to basic attack. Heaven's Fury, get a whole bunch of them, free basic attacks while you're invulnerable. Ascend, get close to them so you can basic attack. Heresy, empower your basic attacks. it's all about basic attacks. Health, she's a carry. Oh boy, she's pretty, really squishy. Mana, she gets actually a fair amount, 900 mana. It's actually kind of quite a bit. I think it's the same as any other carry, but mana regen the same. Again, no attack speed, which is a very important thing for her. She needs attack speed. Basic armor, just like a carry, and ability armor just like everybody else. So her numbers are saying that she is a basic attack carry. Really no question about it. It's what a carry is. That's what an ADC is. So you can see by the numbers, we really have to focus on her basic attack. Here we are at the optimal DPS calculator set optimizer for Serath. Now, remember that she's really interesting. She has really good scaling on her basic attack, and it gets to be a pretty heavy hitting basic attack, but she doesn't gain attack speed. So while she's not the strongest basic attack, meaning she doesn't start off with a really high base damage, meaning, you know, you don't really necessarily need that much anything else. She's actually really interesting. She doesn't need as much crit as, say, Twin Blast or something like that, but then again, he doesn't gain attack speed, so he still needs that attack speed. Or, you know, not like Murdoch or Grim or Sparrow, who gains a lot of attack speed, so she doesn't necessarily need much. So it's a really weird, it's a really strange interplay between how power, attack speed, crit chance seems to work on carries. So it's always interesting when you do see the math here. Now, as you can see, this is the total amount of CP of value that I have in the build that I will showcase here, 53. So when you spit that into here, we need 21 CP into power and penetration, 15 into attack speed, 17 for crit chance, in order to get the optimal DPS, the highest DPS possible. Now, as in these numbers here are the numbers that are in the build. And as you can see, there's a little bit more power penetration, a little bit less attack speed, but the exact same crit chance. Crit, really, really powerful. It's what gives you that 250% increased damage. Obviously, that's very, very powerful. But I chose to take a little bit less on the attack speed, simply because it's a little bit of a bursty meta. So while Serath needs time due to her basic attacks, or her being so focused on her basic attacks, while she still is that, I still feel like going a little bit bursty, a little bit more power penetration, a little bit less attack speed is maybe a little bit appropriate. Just so your abilities maybe hit just a little bit harder, and your empowered states of your abilities hit a little bit powerful. I don't know. But that is what we have in the build. As you know what, I have started to notice attack speed really drop off after 10, 13 CP. Once you kind of get more than that, it's I don't know, I feel like the what do you call it, diminishing return point is really starts to show itself around the 13, 14, 15 CP of attack speed. So I'm fine with this, as a little bit more damage is more appropriate. So as you can see here, this is how she scales with a total CP. So as you can see, power is really, really, really prevalent. Next with crit. So she really likes crit, followed by attack speed. Unfortunately, due to the investment that you need in crit to really start to get a reliable value out of it, you're gonna have to go into power attack speed first for a fairly significant amount of time, you know, 30, 40 CP right in here, and then you can jump, boof, right into crit, you know, as you can trade some of that power for crit, something like that. So just because crit, you need that investment, you need a large percentage to really be reliable. Go into it power attack speed, you know, till 30, 40 CP, and then you can jump right into crit all of a sudden as you kind of get rid of some power. So that's pretty much it, guys. That is really the nuts and bolts of Serath. She needs attack speed. She really does, more than you would think. You know, 15 CP. That's a lot of attack speed. But here in this build, we're getting a significant amount of lifesteal, 17.5%. So that hopefully will just give us a little bit of sustain, a little bit of health back as we're just going to town on people with some good positioning. We should be able to really utilize this 600 DPS. Here is the build, ladies and gentlemen. Mace of the Flagellant. I'm pretty sure it's flagellant. When people religious fanatics would flail themselves, that is what this is referring to. I know, not very optimistic. But anyways, you have some options here. Health Potion and Healer Token if you want to take her into the off lane, or the Reaper Siphon if you want to be in the jungle. The Reaper Siphon you don't upgrade simply because you get 3 CP's worth of value for equipping it. So I'm happy with that. Not getting a fully upgraded bonus or anything. Power, crit, and the basic attacks on health minion on jungle minions. It's really good. It works really well. No upgrades in that, as you need the equipment slots for other things. In either scenario, the next crit you get is your Sage's Ward. And again, don't upgrade it at first. Don't upgrade it as you get 3 CP of value. It's fine. I'm fine doing that as I'm trying it out, and you know, it actually works really well. The CP in the early game is really kind of hard to find. So you can then, after the Sage's Ward, go into your next 1-point cards, Wind Covered Blade or the Whirling Wand. The more I think about it, because you know what? No. Upgrade this first. My apologies. Upgrade your Sage's Ward first, just because Serath, you need that power anyways, according to the math. So upgrade the Sage's Ward, and then go into your Wind Covered Blade. You need this next for some power, which is mathematically sound. Then you go into your Wind Covered Blade, which gives you that attack speed. Quite a good boost of DPS at this point. A little bit of a power spike. After this, you can get the Thunder Cleaver really whenever you like. I got it, I think, in this in the gameplay that you're going to see after this Wind Covered Blade, or I think maybe even before, to be honest, just because it really helps with clearing waves in the jungle, and of course clearing the minion camps in the jungle or in the lanes, and that's really important. You really need to farm because she's a carry, so you really need to, you really need this to help you out. After that, you go into the Void Steel Dagger, which gives you a nice amount of pen, which is sound at this point, believe it or not, and it will help you in the DPS department. At this point, you have your Reaper's Siphon, Sage's Ward, Whirling Wand, Wind Covered Blade, Thunder Cleaver, and your Void Steel Dagger. Now, at this point, you go into your Rift Mage's Scepter. You can use your Reaper's Siphon as, you can get rid of it to help you into this Rift Mage's Scepter. This gives you a fair amount of crit. This gives you 24% crit, which then you can easily go into the Sword of the Altar. You will be replacing a card at this point, I do believe, and so it's not that hard to get, but the lifesteal will be another huge factor in your success, as that gives you sustain out on the battlefield to, again, farm more safely. After the Sword of the Altar, you go into this Spear of the Rift Hunter. It's expensive, but that crit is really powerful. It's so powerful as your DPS skyrockets at this point. Next, you finish off the build with this Whirling Wand to get you some power. Definitely get that first, and then upgrade that kinetics. You don't keep Thunder Cleaver at the end game, just because your Wave Clear is going to be super strong to begin with. You're gonna just one basic attack on those rain minions and they're dead, or if there's a really huge wave, you can use their Q and then it just annihilate the whole wave anyways. So you don't really need that Thunder Cleaver. That was a really great kind of realization for me, so I could clear up that slot for other important things. Final build here: Sword of the Altar, this Whirling Wand, this Whirling Wand, Void Steel Dagger, Spear of the Rift Hunter, and your Rift Mage's Scepter. There is no ward in this build, just because I feel like Serath, she can actually really use that extra CP. Just like Sparrow. Sparrow's a hyper carry. I feel like Serath has like almost hyper carry status. She's like almost. She has 600 DPS with 17.5% lifesteal. Hey, that's a lot of life back if you are allowed to do your thing. If a good team composition is around her, she can do a lot. So I think not having a ward, that is okay in this scenario, just because building her is a little tough with order and corruption. It's a little hard, so I think this is okay. Let's go take a look at the gameplay. So here in the early game, again, you can choose to go off lane or here in the jungle. The jungle, I think, works a little bit better for her. I really do. As you can see, with that Sylphin, it really works well. You can, as long as you are kiting well, you can actually sustain fairly okay. You get the two white camps here before going into the green camp. You get that camp, get the white camp, and then go and contest the river buffs. Now, at this point, I mean, nobody's really doing much damage to begin with. So, I mean, really, if you don't get a kill, that is okay. Don't chase. Play it safe, as again, you are a carry. And nobody really here has much damage in the early game to begin with anyways. So, it's okay to play it safe. Use that green buff, hopefully, to run over to this camp and take that, as it will be nice and leveled up. Go over to this camp, take this, as you're getting a little bit of a jungle guide as well. The very first ability that you get, I chose to go for Chastise, just so that you have the slow, helps with any little bit of a gank. You could go for your Q, which what your Q does is make you invulnerable for as long as you basic attack the heroes in a certain area. So it's an AoE ability where you basic attack enemies in an area with like with like an angel that kind of appears out of you, and your basic attacks are 0.2 seconds in between each other. So it's kind of hard to explain. We'll get a good showcase of it later on. You can get that, but with the issue with your Q, is that it actually roots you in place, so then all the minions kind of gather around you, and then for that like moment that you're stuck there with all these minions hitting on you, you actually take a lot of damage. So unfortunately, I don't really recommend your Q, as a farming tool in the early game. Get your right click, it's a little bit easier, and then get your Q, and then your E. But your E is your ascend, where you rise into the air, and then you hover there for about a second, I think. And then what happens is you can choose where you kind of dive down. And again, it deals damage, but it has a 1200 unit range, which enables you to, close gaps or escape, which Serath, she's pretty good at escaping. She's pretty elusive. You just got to be really careful with when you use your ascend, and not, don't use it immediately and then the enemy just has, that their one ability to close the gap on you anyways. So just be careful with using your E as a escape tool, as don't be too obvious as to when you're going to use it. So here is a showcase of her Q. You just saw there, that is her Q, where she becomes invulnerable, and you attack enemies in the area of effect with your basic attack every 0.2 seconds. So the more things that are in that area for you to attack, the longer your invulnerability lasts. And that was really not clear the very first couple times I played Serath. So, if it's only one person that you're attacking with your Q, your invulnerability is only going to last for 0.2 seconds. If there's 10 people in that area of effect, your invulnerability is going to last for 2 seconds. So, as you can see, 0.2 seconds each time your Q attacks somebody. Keep that in mind, as it wasn't very clear the very first time I played. So here we are with this Aurora helping out our friendly team, and you can see that I have changed. I am this evil demonic woman with burning flaming strikes and a mace. This is our ultimate. What happens is you let out a large kind of damaging ability immediately around around you. Once you use your ultimate, there's a first kind of initial explosion, deals a little bit of damage, but it applies the weakness that we were talking about, 12, 20, and 25% weakness, something like that, to enemies around you for 3 seconds. Each ability that you land on somebody also applies that weakness and also burns them. When a target is burning, your basic attack gets a buff on that burning target. So, when your ultimate is up for 18 seconds, which is a really long time, you want to kind of spread your abilities out if at all possible. Here on Monolith, time to kill is so damn short that I feel like maybe Serath needs a bit of a tweak, or just is very situational with her ultimate. So your initial ultimate applies that burn and weakness. Hit you just go to town on the enemy with your basic attack. You're applying that debuff and the basic attack empowered. So boom, 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 and then 3 seconds later it's off. You use another ability, probably you're slow, and then you go boom, boom, boom. You just keep going, keep going. Your Q though does not apply that burn. Your Q is a basic attack. It's a ranged basic attack that you go invulnerable for, and your shadow, your angel, goes out and does it. So your Q doesn't apply it, your E does, and your right click does as well. Here is me getting lucky with my E. They luckily don't burst me down enough, but I do get out of there with my E. Nobody really comes over and helps me. The Gideon does, but unfortunately I do escape with my E. And what I was going to have to do there was wait for that Kwang sword. It happened. I got taken down, and I used my E to escape. Here's a good gank here on this gadget, and I do manage to close the gap, use my right click to slow her, and take her down. Pretty standard. Right click is your chastise to slow them. Use that quick. It is on a fairly quick cooldown, as you can see. It's already up already. So use that to secure some positional advantage over the enemy, but save it. You know that most heroes have an escape ability, so save it for when they use that. Here's a bit of a showcase of me kind of not staying aware with what's happening. I use my ultimate, I use all my abilities. You can see I'm just destroying this Countess, and then I use my E to not escape, because I didn't see that the Cosmic Rift was going to be used to kill her, so I should have escaped, and I think I might have escaped there, but they probably would have been able to poke me down. So you are a carry. Don't go too ham. You gotta be careful. This is one of the best plays I think I have ever done with Serath. Going in, look at this, use my ultimate, boom, and absolutely just going to town here. Use my ultimate on all of those enemies close by. I'm just going nuts here. I'm like, oh, the enemy's not. So I'm like, I can go in on this gadget and totally take him out. And check that out. Perfect example, guys, of engaging on your terms. We can see that the enemy team here is nice and grouped up, so I jump down, use my ultimate. I use my E here just because I wanted to get that burst damage out, which, as I said before, you need the, every 3 seconds, you don't want to be using your abilities. Every 3 seconds the burn is going, so spread out your abilities. There, I wanted to do a little bit of burst just to completely annihilate them, and oh boy, I was like absolutely screaming my head off. I was like, yeah, the plays! So you have to engage on your terms, and as you can see, it's super effective when you do so. Here's a showcase of kind of engaging on your terms. Again, I'm trying to be careful here. I'm like, oh, I think I can take down the Sparrow. I am melee. I do pop my ultimate, and luckily my Gideon comes and helps me. What I was thinking there was the enemy team isn't helping her, and I knew that that they didn't have that control that they need to focus me down and just kind of prevent me from doing my thing. I went in there and I singled out the Sparrow on my terms. So here is an example of me positioning ready for my team to make the play. Here I am standing up top of our ridge here of our middle tier 1 tower, and I'm just waiting. I'm like, oh, where is this Decker with the Gideon and Sparrow? Fantastic ultimate synergy there. And I'm like, I'm just waiting for them to come up, because that is exactly what I need. I need them to initiate for me, for them to do their stuff, and then I can go in and use my ultimate for that large AoE and just go to town. I need them to initiate. Unfortunately, nothing really happens. They see me because I was dumb or something, and then they come here. I do a weird thing. I use my E onto the thing, and I'm like, whoa, a little bug there. But as you can see, that is the kind of positioning you need in order for a Serath to be successful, and your team needs to initiate for you. Here's a little bit of an odd engagement. The steel is out of position, and I'm like, great, I can take advantage of this, take him out. Now this Countess has no chance, and I'm like, great, they're taken out of position, and I am now queen. When they don't have the enemy team's help, I know that as a carry at 46 CP, I can 1v1 them for sure, because now we have our lifesteal and whatnot. So I took that moment. I had to retreat from a little bit of an engagement before that, but then I took advantage of them trying to chase me down. Here's a great initiation as well from me sitting out here. I'm like, I need to come in from behind, and I'm like, oh, you want to play, Kwong? This isn't good for you. And I'm like, ah, rats, he did take me down, so I'm like, well, let's go over here. Boop! Finish him off. And I'm like, okay, so what's gonna happen here? I can 1v1 some heroes, and I'm like, oh, I hear somebody. I come over here, I'm like, yep, Countess, I can definitely take you out. And there's a fantastic just control from the Aurora. Again, really synergizes well with Serath, as she needs time to just burn people down with her basic attacks, both literally and metaphorically. And here's me going a little too ham, initiating too hard. You are not the initiator, and especially against a hyper carry here, I was like, ooh, I gotta use my E or else she's just gonna burn me, but she burns me anyways, and there's the Kwong to come and finish me off. You aren't an initiator, and you can't be that. So I should have waited for this Gideon to do his thing, for the Decker's ultimate to go down, for the Aurora's ultimate to go down. We have a fantastic team for me to, this side, for me to do my stuff with. Gideon ultimate, Aurora ultimate, any of their ultimates, really, besides Sparrow's, would be my cue to engage. That's why I died there. So here is the enemy's push for the win. Yes, we lose here, even though I happen to be playing quite well. Unfortunately, it just really didn't work. So here's you see there in that right lane, I was really trying to wait for them, and as you can see, boom, just instantly annihilated. I was waiting for that, but I was like, oh, there's the Decker ult, there's the Gideon ult. I'm like, oh, and I'm not there. Oh, that would have been my cue, and I'm like, oh boy, let's go in. I was like, I have my lifesteal, can I make it happen? And that right there was my bad. So I really want to showcase that to you guys here, because I was like, I think I can do it. I think I can do the play here. Right here is where I'm like, my Q is off. I'm like, I need my Q right now, right here. I can one-shot that Kwong with my Q. I can kill the Steel with my Q. Well, probably not the Steel, but this Kwong I would be invulnerable. Then I would be able to go on the Sparrow. She probably would have been able to kill me, to be honest with you. But I was like, I was spamming my Q right here. I was spamming my Q. I was like, oh, come on. No. And it unfortunately didn't work. You know, Serath, she can do the plays, but unfortunately, I was like Q, and I couldn't. For that invulnerability to help me kill the Kwong and the Steel, unfortunately not. So again, there's a bad choice of me going in and basically going to my death. And here we go. We lose, unfortunately, but there's some pretty good showcases of Serath for sure, and hopefully you guys found found this useful. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it to the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, found it useful, please let me know down in the comments, and of course, subscribe. I would love to be able to do it for you in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.